College football has ended, but can we see changes after 1 year to the next college football playoff? We discussed that, plus our way too early top 25 for this fall of 2025 and Luka Magic. Looks like the Lakers are on top of this trade, but we discussed it all here on episode 35.
Just change.
What is going on, Chap Nation? Happy beginning of the week to you. I am JB, along with my coach Jeremiah James, and as always, you are listening to your favorite sports podcast. We are Chop Talk. Again, thank you for joining us. As usual, we love each and every one of you every week. Listen to everything that we have. Thank you for all the comments, all the love each and every week.
Yes.
Thank you for just, keeping up. We are continuing to grow this as much as we can. We love being here with you each and every week. So we'd like to start off the show by thanking each one of you, all of our fans, for continuously listening to us, just jabber on each and every week, and for all the love that you guys share. So again, happy beginning of the week to you. As always, Jeremiah, how we doing, man? How was your weekend?
I'm doing well, my firefighting friend. It was actually quite a wonderful weekend, and mainly because I got to see you, man. I got to see you at church, which almost never happens,
That is true. Well, you got to wake up early to see me at church. That's the problem.
No, we go to 8:30 too.
I'm there. We're there pretty consistently 8:30. We're the morning crew. We're already up. Kids are already up. So for us, it's like, all right, we're just going to be the 8:30 people. 8:30 used to be the service that was like, it's always busy, but it wasn't as bad. Now 8:30 is just as bad as any of the other two services.
Yeah. The 10:30 is like, don't go to 10:30 unless you do not want a parking spot. You want to wait for everything. 8:30 was like people who had been going to like. Pretty much everybody that went to 8:30 has been there for a while. I can look around and see people I've seen for 2, 3, 5, 7 years. Not anymore, man. Like this past Sunday, it was 8:30. It was packed.
Yeah,
it was packed up.
I came in at so I was late. My relief came in late at work, so Becca was already there. But I came in from the station. He was late, so I didn't show up there until like 8:35 or so, like 5 minutes after. Yeah, and I had to park pretty much at the 7-Eleven. Which is where they sent me. So I was texting Becca. She's and I was like, "Hey, you need anything from the 7-Eleven?" And that's what I sent to her while she was in service. I'm like, this is about where I am. Then I left because she had asked me on my way home from work if I needed or on the way to church if I had any ibuprofen. Like, yeah, I got some. Well, then I forget it. And so he's like, "Do you guys have any in the med bag?" And I was like, "No, we don't give anything out anymore med wise." So I walked all the way back to the car to get her some ibuprofen and all the way back again. That's a long way. So yeah, don't even at 8:30, you show up there a couple minutes late, you're walking a bit.
Oh no, you got to be 10-15 minutes early. We always try to be on the aisle, as you know, on that left hand side. So to be on an aisle, you really got to get there first, right?
Yes.
And I noticed you were basically dressed up. I assume you were on call or you just came from work. So
just came. Yeah, nice. I just come from work. And I'm already like that direction about 8 to 10 minutes. So when I leave the station, I'm right there close to the 429. So it only takes about 12 or 13 minutes to get there. Yeah. From the station. So it just works out, for us to just leave and go to first service, right after. Like I said, the kids are already up. They're ready to go to church, enjoy our time, have the day. Yeah. And so we did. And we enjoyed it.
We have a checklist for the weekends. There's 3 things on it. There's Jesus, there's chicken, and then there's naps. And if all 3 of those things get onto the on our bingo card for the weekend, then we're happy campers.
I like it.
Family, yeah,
I like it.
Jesus
Saturday was Jesus chicken and naps. Well, we did have chicken. We had taco bowls at work on Saturday.
Okay.
There was no naps. I did just kind of lay on the couch for a couple minutes yesterday.
Yeah.
This was also as we were doing our taxes, finishing up all of our tax stuff.
Okay.
Because we're
going to put most people on the couch.
Yeah. Fortunately, it didn't take too long. We had already kind of done like half of it or whatever. We don't like to be the late people. So, and we have spring break coming up here in a couple of weeks, where we're leaving for a week. So we wanted to just make sure we got it all done, all out of the way. So, good weekend, just restful, hung out with the kids, went to the park. Becca had a small group last night, so she was there while I was hanging out here with the kids. Took them to dinner, some ice cream, just kind of had some good time with them. And then back to the grind today. Back to the grind.
Are they finishing out our show like they did last week? They're going to be yelling, go Noles?
No.
Are they in school?
They are not here. They are not here. But I would imagine that during the summertime, just like last summer, there will be a lot of interruptions. So Our viewers, please get set and ready. So as we start to get to the end of May, school gets out, May into the beginning of June, and we start to hit our summer podcast sessions here.
Right.
A lot more of the children in the podcast, 1,000%. Because if I'm home, they're home, and they're here. So I will do the best that I can to throw them out in the pool or something like that, for a few minutes while we do this. But just get ready for more kiddos.
Yeah, I got you. Now, before we switch gears, obviously, was there a meme of the week that you liked? I want to throw this in before we
I forgot about the meme of the week.
What? Well, you see it literally all week long.
No, but you didn't remind me.
I don't need to remind you. You're a grown man.
I have sent a bunch of them, so I'll just pull one of them up. Let me see.
Well, while you're doing that, I'm going to tell a quick joke. This joke is a little older. I'm a big fan of the memes. Family Guy memes, especially with the Chiefs, really get me. They are funny because Family Guy is one of our favorite shows. It's just, they don't care. They don't hold back in Family Guy. So being able to throw the Chiefs logo on anything Family Guy's, I get stitches in my side, man. But I'm going to read this joke real fast. It's a little old. I don't know if you've heard this one, but just in case you haven't, out in Chop Nation, now you get to hear it. So Tom Brady, after living a full life, died. When he got to heaven, God was showing him around. They came to a nice little house with the faded Patriots flag in the window. And he said, "This house is yours for all eternity, Tom," God said. He said, "This is very special. Not everyone gets to house up here." Tom felt very special indeed and walked up to his house. And on the way to his porch, he noticed another house just around the corner. It was a huge 3-story mansion with red and gold sidewalks and driveways, a 50-foot tall flagpole with an enormous Chiefs flag waving, a swimming pool in the shape of an arrowhead, a DC logo in every window, and a number 15 Patrick Mahomes jersey on the front door. And Tom looked at God and said, "God, I'm trying not to be ungrateful, but I have a question. I was an all-pro quarterback. I won 7 Super Bowls, and I even went into the Hall of Fame." And God said, "So what's your point, Tom?" He said, "Well, why does Patrick Mahomes get a better house than me?" And God chuckled and said, "Tom, that's not Patrick's house. That's mine." And I think the moral of the story for me, JB, as a super fan of the Chiefs, is that God is always a fan of the underdog. Go Chiefs!
No, he's a fan of the underdog.
There we go, baby.
That's a good one. That's a good one. All right, so I'll just choose this one really, really fast. My meme of the week is it says FSU looking good this year, and it says Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
We're going to get into that. Got a lot to talk about.
That was last year. I don't think that's going to be this year. I think you guys, I think you can do much better. We've talked about that. Go ahead.
Talk a little bit about it here. Man, putting my phone there kind of messed up the image there.
Can't put those hands out there. You never fix this? You got to fix your video, man.
I don't think that I have it plugged in for that. So I think I should be good, but I'm not going to try to mess with it right now.
All right.
Yeah, so that's good. Like I said, I chose that because I got a lot to share today. I'll try to do it in a very quick fashion when it comes to Florida State news. But yes, that is our meme of the week. I will be better next week. I promise. I'll make sure that I have one set up and ready to go. And I don't mind picking fun, at like Florida State, because it's like with how bad they were. It's just like, all right, it's there, it's done. Let's just have a little fun with it and move on.
Right.
The Bucks, that was still a little too soon. Little tough pill to swallow, but we'll as time progresses, we're going to talk about that as well. So a lot of key free agents on the Bucks that are huge to their team. So we got to make sure we get all those signed, but we will talk about it.
If there was a game I ever didn't want to watch with you, it was watching the Bucks lose in the playoffs. We were together for that game.
We were together.
If there was ever a game I was wishing I wasn't with you, that was the one. I can tell you now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it was such a, you were kind of, as a football fan, it's like, obviously I'm a big Bucks fan, but you're after the fact when you see them lose and it's like, all right, they move on, you kind of, unless you're a Dallas Cowboys fan or maybe a Giants fan, you're rooting for Jaden Daniels, right? Just a great season all around. And you beat the Bucks that are playing well. They've already beat you earlier in the season, and you're like, all right, probably, it's just somebody that you want to root for. Great guy, even keel guy, Dan Quinn, the rest of that team, not expected to go that far. Kind of like the Bucks the year before. Nobody expected, 1 year after Tom Brady, to make it all the way to the point of the almost the championship game and almost to the Super Bowl. So you're just kind of rooting for him in that regard. But there is always next season, as the saying goes. So
yes,
let's want to move forward into talking about some Florida State news here. So Vegas odds, I want to kind of jump to that a little bit first. So Vegas odds, you were talking about, how well they're going to do, right? So it was kind of weird because like a lot of the other ACC teams already had their win totals on some of these, like Hard Rock Bets, FanDuel, stuff like that already out. You exited the stage. That wasn't my fault. And they already had their wins and losses out for a lot of those teams. But they didn't have Florida State's. And I think it was just because they didn't know what to make of the team. They weren't really sure what to kind of think in that regard. So like win totals are like Clemson 9.5, Miami 8.5, Louisville 8.5, North Carolina 7.5 with new coach Bill Belichick, NC State 6.5, Virginia Tech 6.5, Syracuse 5.5, Pittsburgh 5.5, Virginia 5.5, Stanford 3.5. So they don't expect Stanford to do very well. So we play a majority of these teams except for Louisville, North Carolina, and Syracuse, all up there except for Syracuse, more on the 7-9 wins. So obviously the win totals for these teams tell that Vegas doesn't necessarily expect them to be like elite per se. So if we have any luck on the injury front and we're able to get these guys well coached and well developed, then there is the potential to get to what our number is. We should be able to handle the Pittsburgh, Stanfords, Virginias, Virginia Techs. Obviously, then we have our harder games. I think the last 3 out of 4 road games. And then we have some of our easy teams like the Wake Forest, Kent State, East Texas A&M. So that's like 7 games already right there. So we were talking about it before. So they have them at 7.5. That's what Vegas has their odds is at 7.5.
Okay.
And we talked about it. We said that was the number, right? That's the number that I said.
Yeah.
I said that if they had
a little higher than that, but
Yeah, you said it again. I said from your mouth to the Lord's ears.
That's right.
If they can exceed that and have 8 wins, that's a successful season for Florida State. Like that's successful. I would be happy with that. You go to a bowl game, maybe you get a 9th win in a bowl game, but taking away the bowl game, if you can come out 8-4 with the games that you should win, plus maybe an extra one against a Florida, a Miami, a Clemson, or Alabama, which are the other 4 games, maybe other than an NC State. An NC State win would give you an 8th win. And then that would be your 4 losses. It would be your Clemson, your Miami, your Florida, and your Alabama. Obviously, you want to get, a couple of those quality wins there, but it is what it is. You at least get maybe one of those, and you come out with an 8-win season, much better than expected. Yeah. So we'll see. Again, we've talked about before in the past how well their recruiting has gone, how well they did in the transfer portal. But again, as I told you before, I don't have any expectations in regards to that because they supposedly did really well in the transfer portal the year before. So Mike Norvell, recently they were referencing something that he said after, the loss to Florida at the very end of the season. Yeah. Which is what ended our season. And he made it perfectly clear. Obviously, I told you how frustrated he gets me with the interviews, right? It's like he takes accountability. But as far as like making changes, what they're going to do for the future, just really showing that frustration towards certain things or whatever, he really kind of hides it and says the same things kind of over and over again. Right. That kind of gets frustrating, but he really laid it all out on the line. Excuse me.
Yeah, no worries.
He really laid it all out on the line at the very end of the season when they lost to Florida, and just like, look, we are going to make changes. We are going to change this. We are going to fix this. And as far as players are concerned, if I feel in any which way that they are not a part of the plan to succeed, and they don't show that they're part of the plan to succeed, they will not play here. So that was like one of the first times that he's ever, like, in my opinion, fully called out the players, fully called out their effort, their lack of effort, if you will. So I do feel like over time, in which case we've discussed it, so I'm not going to go into a bunch of it. Coaches, players, all that kind of stuff, new recruits, things like that they've added. But I did want to talk about one in particular that just happened just recently. So supposedly Mike Norvell was just as surprised as everybody else, but Miami Florida Central Star defender Karan Maycock, a safety turned linebacker, in the 2026 class, committed to Florida State over a lot of different schools. Now, this is the second or third player from the Miami-Dade area that Florida State is locked up, with Miami being somebody that is also recruiting that player. So this guy is a 4-star, 6'1", 180, played safety, turned linebacker, and supposedly is just a monster all over the field. Has got a great relationship. I'm going to read you what he said here about Florida State, but a great relationship with all the coaches. He was recruited by like Alabama, Miami, Arkansas, UAB, Florida State, and a couple of other schools. And now he starts an official visit, I think, in June, with an official visit to Miami in May. But so he hasn't shut down his recruitment yet, but he's just verbally committed. Now, we know that doesn't mean anything nowadays. However, he has said a lot of great stuff about Florida State and just the new coaches that are there. So he says what stood out about FSU is how they never gave up on each other and are continuing to build the team piece by piece. My relationship with the staff is great, and I talk to them daily. It is mostly my head coach and position coaches like John Papachus, Pat Surtain, and Coach Tony White. I don't know if I said John's last name right, but anyways,
close.
He visited Tallahassee a bunch. Still does an official visit in June, as I said. And he just feels like home. He continues to be around the coaches and players to feel more at home at Florida State. And he's just been one of the more explosive players in the country. So it's a great, great pickup. Some sites have him listed at 180, some at 200 pounds. But they're like, he can line up anywhere on the field to make really a true impact. As a junior in 2024, he recorded 67 total tackles, 17 tackles for loss, 3 pass deflections, 3 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles for Miami Central.
So this guy was busy. He was
busy and visited a lot of different places as well, a lot of different schools. So
do you know where else he went other than FSU? If not, no worries.
I don't know where he just took unofficial visits to.
Gotcha.
I think so. The ones that earlier in this week, today's the 24th, so a couple days ago, that offered him scholarships were UAB, Miami, Alabama, and Arkansas. Those are the ones that I read actually offered him scholarships. So again, exciting. Just another guy added to the list of players that we're excited to see. That was only as of a couple days ago. This so what is today?
24th
Monday. So this past Thursday. Thursday,
so recent.
Florida State. So just recent.
So
just really excited about that. Again, just found the Vegas odds a little interesting, but that's where I would go, is at 7.5.
Are you okay with that as a fan?
I really am.
7.5.
They're not gonna. They're unbiased, right? So they're coming in with the expectations. So the expectations coming into, I think they were at 9.5 coming into the beginning of last season. They were at 9.5 expected, and obviously they didn't have the season.
Didn't make it to 9.5.
Did not make it to 9.5, even close. But nevertheless, that's what they, that's what you're expecting them to have, though. So barring anything that goes wrong, like they had go wrong. So it's no different. They're looking at the team, they're looking at the transfer portal, they're looking at the teams that they play, their schedule, all that kind of stuff to determine, okay, this is where we're at. This is where we feel like that they would be. So I do feel like 7.5 is a very reasonable number. I think they look at the teams that they're going to play. And I think if they had put like 5.5 or 6, I think that would really kind of be underselling the team based on who they're playing and the expected strength of schedule. Yeah. So I feel like that would just kind of be more like a slap in the face. I think 7.5 is a very good, even number for them.
It's reasonable.
It's reasonable and a good expectation.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
So that's my quick Florida State news. Again, these are gonna diminish over time as we get more into the spring and the off season. More teams, I believe USC and Texas, or USC and Oregon, one or the other, but USC and another team have joined the list of schools and not doing a spring game.
Really?
Yeah. So it looks like a lot more teams are not doing spring games for whatever reason. So that's an interesting take to try to figure out why that is. Most recent, I'll just throw a real quick, tidbit out there on the college football world. Shedeur Sanders, very much like Caleb Williams, will not throw at the combine. He will still do in Indianapolis, the NFL combine. Caleb Williams did not. Jaden Daniels did not. They did do their individual workouts for teams, which Shedeur Sanders does plan to do. And then we'll also throw in the Colorado Pro Day, I believe is what I read as well. Okay. But he will not be throwing at the combine. But these top players like that, that's just kind of been their tendency over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I read an article where they were the prospects, the NFL scout said it wasn't even close. They didn't say who was ahead in terms of Cam Ward versus Shedeur Sanders. I have to assume they were saying it wasn't close and Cam Ward was the number one pick. Correct. Is that what you're hearing as well?
Yeah, so that's what I was hearing as well.
It's not even close. Like Sanders probably won't even go. He may go late round, first, early second, potentially. He may drop.
Yeah, so they're the top 2 QBs, but a lot of reports were coming out saying that Cam Ward was outshining him by far. Yeah, that's what I was reading. Now, I mean, obviously it's just a matter of perception per se. When you're coming to nickel and dime somebody, but at the same time, you just saw a lot more out of Cam Ward and the 2 teams, that he did play for, from Washington and to
Miami. You're right.
And then Shedeur Sanders. So it's going to be interesting. We have a couple more months till the draft. So it's going to be interesting to see their development through their pro days and all that kind of stuff. By that particular point. So that was just a little tidbit there. But kind of moving on, since we're kind of talking about college football, we discussed earlier doing the way too early top 25. This is always a fun thing for me because when we do that, we did this last year. Yeah. And I feel like we were somewhat close on some teams. I mean, other than Florida State, I don't really remember too many teams just completely falling out of where we had it before, where we had it at. So there might have been they may not have been close. Like maybe we had Alabama at 5 or 6 or 7, and then they ended up whatever they did. Excuse me, at 13. But I think Florida State was the only one that was way out there, way far away.
Right.
But so before you want to share what you've kind of seen or heard, or maybe you have your own.
In terms of the top 25?
Yeah, I've got a few that are they're kind of similar. There's only a couple teams that they've kind of moved around. Yeah. But it's nothing surprising, I wouldn't say.
No, I would say, seeing the teams that got pounded in the first rounds of the playoffs still hanging around in the 12 spot, SMU, that surprises me a little bit, Right. I don't know if I would give those teams such high priority going into the top 25. Colorado, they've got at 25, SMU at 12, BYU is the 13. I think that's probably low. They should be higher. Tennessee at 9. I mean, I don't know, man. Ohio State, number 1, Notre Dame, Oregon, Texas, Penn State. I think Georgia's probably above Penn State, honestly. So that's probably my top 5. What are your thoughts?
So most of the ones that I'm reading have Alabama outside the top 10. Season. They went 9-4 this last year and lost their bowl game. So not a lot of happy Alabama fans.
17th on this one I'm looking at.
On which one? You're looking on 17th, you said?
Yeah. NCAA rankings, Associated Press.
I don't know. I think
they're behind Iowa State and Clemson
because they just always, even if at 9-4, right, they still have a tougher schedule, right?
Oh,
so
yeah,
every
definitely.
Year. So if obviously I see that more so like if they lose to Florida State to open up the season, which they're going to, calling it here. Then
right to hear everybody.
Yeah, but no more Jason Milroe, right? Or Jalen Milroe, no more Jalen Milroe. So the team has just changed. You already went 9-4 with a really decent QB like Milroe. So this is like your first test of like, okay, you're starting to get into like the Kalen DeBoer era of your own players, right? Like the Nick Saban players are starting to leave, so it's like, okay, well, let's see, where you go from here. Miami at 11. Man, I don't know if I'm a giant fan of Carson Beck. Like, I mean, I just feel like it's a mental thing. I don't know if you read, but like he's got 2 luxury cars, a Lamborghini and something else. And they're down there in Miami with him. They just both got stolen. I mean, they did find the guy, arrest the guy, so maybe he got his cars back, but they both got stolen. But there was just so much within the locker room at Georgia, between just him just kind of being flashy and his girlfriend kind of being a distraction in the locker room and this, that, and the other. There's just a lot of drama that goes on with him. So I'm just not sure if Miami is just going to be the place for him to pan out.
I mean, if you want to go to a place that's not drama, Miami's not the place to go. That's probably they're high drama. Like you can't take a drama player and put him in Miami. It's going to get worse.
Right. So this this particular one has, let's start just from number 1. So Texas, some of them have Texas, some of them have Ohio State interchangeably, number 1 and number 2. So interchangeably those 2, Penn State, a normal number 3, maybe a Notre Dame at number 4 or number 3, kind of interchangeable there on some. And then you kind of get into 5, 6, 7 kind of changes around a little bit. This particular one has Clemson at number 5. I don't know if I have them over Oregon. Some sites have Oregon, Georgia, and then Clemson. That sounds a bit more like it for me. I know that Clemson is bringing back Cade Klubnik and a lot of other guys, and you can never count out Dabo Swinney. But I do think that, as far as the teams that they play, I think Georgia bounces back. I think Oregon still has a really good year. And they're probably just above Clemson. So I still think that I put Oregon and Georgia above Clemson. Notre Dame, that's going to be a tricky one for me. They've got them at number 4 or number 5 on most sites. However, that's a tricky one to me because especially with you losing Riley Leonard, they've got two quarterbacks in particular that they're going to try to choose from that they already have. So it's like, all right, are they going to change? And they're going to change interchangeably pretty well. I give a lot of credit to Marcus Freeman, so I'm going to say, okay, we're going to go for it. We're going to keep Notre Dame there at number 4.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable. I put them 3 to 7.
Yeah,
that range, 3 to 6, 3 to 7 for sure.
They've got LSU at 8. You can never. I mean, they went 9-4 last year. Who knows? Man, LSU just always this throw up in the air every year.
They're not the same LSU of the old days. How about that? Can we agree on that? Because they're not even on this AP list that I'm looking at. They're not even on the top 25.
So obviously they had Jaden Daniels, but quarterback Garrett Nussmeier, who they've had for a bit, is back and has the talent, to be a decent quarterback. Right. They picked up a few, different weapons, through the transfer portal. One of note is Destin Hill from Florida State. He just didn't end up. We talked about him a ton on the podcast. He was just so injured all the time, and so that's good luck to him. Maybe you stay healthy. And then to finish out the top 10, you have South Carolina, and they've got a really, really good quarterback in Lenore Sellers, and then Tennessee. Tennessee again, 10-3, lost in the first round of the college football playoff. We'll see. And then you got Miami, and then Miami and Alabama being the first two looking in. Yeah. And so that kind of brings me to my next point. So obviously we saw the way that everything ended last year, right? So Oregon, Georgia, Arizona State, Boise State all got automatic bids into like for the top four, right? And got automatic bids, first round bye. And then you had Clemson, who is the number 12 after winning the ACC. So we saw how that kind of panned out, right? There was no conference champion in the top four. That's what we saw. And then other than Arizona State, who, again, maybe Texas just wasn't as good as people made them out to be. I don't know, because you saw Arizona State almost beat them. Yeah. And then you saw
they almost pulled it off.
And then you saw who was it? Oregon just destroy them, or Ohio State?
No. Who?
Texas. Who did Texas play after Arizona State? Oregon. Oh, they would have played Oregon. Yeah. Or no, Ohio State. Excuse me. Ohio State played Oregon. Ohio State destroyed Oregon and then went on to play Texas. And then
28-14. Yeah.
So it didn't necessarily destroy them, but just they didn't look very good. Right. So here's how they're proposing that, which is, in my opinion, exactly what we talked about. We talked about how it could change, and we're like, you know what, this is where they need to go. Well, they are in fact talking about it, and it could change as of this year. Good. It's changing to where their top four is their top four, period. Yeah.
So regardless of conference.
Regardless of conference.
Yeah.
Their top four after conference championship weekend, their top four is their top four. Those are the four to get the buys. 5 through 12 play. So the way that would have looked this past season would have been Oregon, Georgia, Texas, Penn State, all getting first round buys. And then after that, it would have been Notre Dame playing Arizona State, Ohio State playing Alabama, Tennessee playing SMU, and Indiana and Boise State. So that's how that would have looked much different. Arizona State and Boise State getting buys. They would have actually opened up with Boise
that didn't make any sense.
Boise State playing Indiana, and Arizona State would have played Notre Dame.
So what's the 12 then? I'm curious, because I think we can pick the national champion through that. Let's fast forward. Let's say last year's is now this year's, right? Mm-hmm. So who are the first games, the quarters?
So they gave Arizona State the 12th seed. This was the final standing. So had they not done that, then that final seed would have been an Alabama or a Miami. I think were the first two teams out.
Okay. But they would have been,
I think after Clemson won ACC, they moved up because they got an automatic bid because they moved up.
Right.
They were down there on the list as well, not thinking that SMU was going to win, but SMU still made it into the college football playoff with their 11-2 record, although they lost the ACC, but Clemson still got in. And so Clemson came in at the number 12, SMU at 11, Indiana at 10. So the first two looking out were Miami and Alabama. And then I think then after that was Ole Miss. So then at that point, one of those three teams gets the number 12 spot.
Yeah.
Regardless of conference champion. So Arizona State goes and wins their championship. Doesn't matter. They were ranked 16th or whatever. They probably are not going to move up past an Alabama, a Miami, or Ole Miss then at that point.
Yeah.
So they are talking about that. They're talking about changing that. I like it because I think that, the top four teams that you have placed in the top four deserve those buys. It's that way anywhere else.
Right.
You're not moving a team up that's 16th in the country.
Yeah.
15th in the country and moving them up to number 3 in the country and giving them an automatic buy.
Yeah, that makes no sense whatsoever.
At all. But I think the thing that had thrown that wrench into the whole system was the conference realignment. That's what we talked about before. Conference realignment.
Yeah.
Where before you would have had your Oregon that was the Big Ten champion. They would have been Pac-12 champion. Yeah. And you had your Texas that would have been Big 12 instead of your SEC. So now you have an SEC team like an Alabama, Georgia, whoever get in
Right.
So you still have then your top 5 conference champions being from those different conferences.
Yeah.
But now with conference realignment and you're putting them in with the same teams
right.
that are good, like
Yeah.
the Big 12 or the SEC,
Yep.
then
Big
now
10.
all of a sudden you're knocking out those better teams because they lost in their conference championship game.
So doesn't that bode well for a 25 or 24 team playoff instead of the 12? Well, I know we talked about this. I brought this up a couple episodes ago that they've already trained us to talk about the top 25 in college football. We're talking about right now, literally in off season. Wouldn't it make more sense to have 24 teams in the playoffs and just basically just add?
Me personally,
I don't think you're a fan.
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. I'm not. I'm not saying that I agree that, because I think that's the same reason that they're wanting to change it now, right? Is they're looking at it and they're saying, okay, we put Boise State, we put Clemson, and we put Arizona State all in the playoffs, all ranked under like 13 or 14 in the country.
Yeah.
Like all of them were ranked that low. Clemson was ranked that low.
Yeah.
Arizona State, Boise State. Well, Boise State may have been the only one that was close to like top 10 material then at that point. But then the other 2 were out. But nevertheless, none of them being close to top 4 in the country. None of them.
Yeah.
And so now you've forced these other teams to play in the first round against one another and them being knocked out. So now the top tier teams in the country, like if you're looking at this here, you had Texas and Clemson play one another. Okay. And Clemson was a better rank than Arizona State, right? So now Clemson's out. So now a team that's ranked less than them is now in the quarterfinals against Texas. Texas or Ohio State and Tennessee. Ohio State destroyed Tennessee.
Yeah,
now they would then move on to play Oregon. So that one, not as much. SMU at 11. Okay. So now you knock out SMU, who's at number 11. Now they're going to go play number 3 Boise State team. That one might have been even, but at the same time, it's like, all right, well, SMU's a good team. Maybe they deserve to be in that spot.
Mm-hmm.
And then in Indiana, Notre Dame, where it's like, okay, well, the winner of that's going to now go play Georgia. So you just have, when you looked at how the seedings went with, like, I would say the 3 teams, everything after 9, like 9, 10, 11, 12, or at least 10, 11, 12, none of them were good games. Like it was like, okay, this is just what we expect. It's almost kind of like when you're looking at a field of 64 for college basketball, you have the occasional game that like the number 16 seed beats the number 1. And that's just like a rare thing in the history of college basketball. It's happened, I don't know, a handful of times. Right. And so that's the kind of game that you're looking at, is like the 215, 116 seeds playing one another. And this is expected to end up this way. So let's just move on to the round of 32. You know, that's the kind of mindset that it is. So if you were to put a 24 team in there, a 24 team thing, that's the way that you're looking at it, right? That's my opinion. That's the way that you look at it. If you're gonna do that, that's just too much. Like even in college basketball, there's 1 to 16 in every area. So it's like, all right, well, you know, if you want to do a 16, it's like, okay, well, you essentially just did, because essentially from 16 down, you had all your conference champions, you had everybody in the playoffs at that point. So then it's like, all right, fine. If you're going to do something, then do a 16 and nobody gets a bye and everybody just starts off playing, right? I mean, so you could do it that way, but no, you go and you start adding teams like 24, 25. They've got, you know, 3 to 4 losses on the season. They haven't been the greatest compared to whatever, strength of schedule, whatever. You start going and putting those teams up against the top 3 or 4 in the country, and it's just not, you know, the parity is more in the top 10, right?
This is true. Yeah.
That's where the parity changes a little bit, shifts a little bit, where it's not the same team every single year.
Right.
That's where that changes, but not all the way at teams 24, 25.
All right.
So,
fair enough.
All right. Moving on here for the sake of time. So NBA headlines, I'm going to be really quick with that one. Just because of a comment that I made. So I wanted to reference a comment that I made. So when the Luka AD trade happened, I made a comment that I felt like that the Mavericks were going to win this trade. Now, it still might be a little too early to tell, but knee-jerk beginning of it, obviously, LA is winning this trade handedly. They're playing great basketball. Luka has come in the mix doing really well. He and LeBron are playing off of one another. Awesome. AD has been out with injury for weeks since his first game playing in Dallas, which we discussed that ahead of time. We're like, he can never stay healthy. So boom, what happens? He goes, he gets injured. Now it's all downhill. It's like, well, that was short-lived. So LA certainly has won this trade so far.
Yeah.
And the Lakers have a great record.
Especially against the Nuggets. He had a great game versus the Nuggets. 32 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists, 4 steals. Like he came out of his shell basically against the Nuggets.
Right, exactly. And so, you were wondering if there was going to be any type of like, you've seen it before where teams have tried to do like a big three or whatever, and it's hard because everybody wants to be the superstar or whatever, so the teams just don't play well with one another.
Yeah.
Like Jimmy Butler has always kind of been like the guy, right, for certain teams. But then he goes to he goes to the
Warriors.
And it's like, I have an easy job, pass the ball to Steph Curry. Like that's all his mindset was there. It wasn't like, I'm going to come and play my basketball, and I'm just going to keep playing the way that I play. No, that wasn't the case at all.
4-1, 5-1 with him playing, I believe.
Yeah. So he just kind of found his role, and that Steph Curry's still the man, and I'm just going to do my thing, but I'm going to put him first. So, I mean, he's had a pretty decent mindset about it, I guess.
That's good.
So that's it for right there. Magic still, hanging out in that 7th seed. They're 2-1 in their last 3 games. Since coming back from the All-Star break. So it's like, all right, we'll see how that goes. We should be 3-0. We lost to the Grizzlies by 1 after being up, still living and dying by the 3, even the 3 games back from, the All-Star break. So, but Paolo and Franz are both getting into their groove. Want to see some more consistency out of Paolo. He'll have a great game where he puts up 30 points, and then the next game he'll go 9 for 30. And it's like, all right, now, man, we need you to be a little bit more consistent than that. Get your shot. You're a superstar. You can do it. So it'd be very nice when we can get Jalen Suggs back, get everybody back together, and make this final stretch down the way. We're a game under 500, but the 6th seed is like 5 or 6 games above 500. So we'd have to make a big swing to get out of the play-in tournament. A
nice little run somewhere.
Yeah. So if they don't want to have to play like an extra game, then they got to get on a run. They got this 500 basketball that they're playing is not going to do it. They got to go on a run. They got to put something together, start beating some of these easy teams, and win on the road. Yeah, like that's where their games end up winning are here at home, and it's like that's great. You're taking care of home, but you got to take care of business outside of there.
Yeah, I agree.
So heading on, we got just a couple of minutes left here. Wanted to talk really fast. We were going to go over some major needs for NFL teams.
Yeah,
we obviously have a very, very strong free agency list. So I'm just going to hit more so on some of the ones to the Bucks real fast. Yeah, and just like a couple top draft or not draft picks, a couple top free agents. We talked about some last week, but just some of the notable ones as a big Bucks fan. Safety Mike Edwards, he was great for them, has been great for them. Certainly need to re-sign him. Defensive end William Golston, been great. Biggest name is Chris Godwin. Now, Chris Godwin over this last week extended the free agent timeline for the Bucks so that way they could have more time to discuss an extension. Okay. So that was a good sign. That was a good sign for him to say, look, I want to be here, so I'm going to extend this time so that way we can have more time. I'm going to extend my contract time, or whatever you want to call it, free agent time, so that way we can have more time to try to work out a deal. I think he and Mike Evans are great friends, 1-2 combo, love one another. I think they want to be with one another. I think he wants to stay being a Buccaneer. I don't think that he's just out there chasing money. I could be wrong. And so that was certainly a great sign.
Yeah, I agree.
That was one of the better ones. Joe Tryon, Shalenka, and Levante David. Obviously, you have to. He's legacy. Eventually might be a time for him to go, but I still felt like he was very, very impactful. There's a few more that might be on here. Wide receiver Sterling Shepard. It's like, okay, you might be able to find somebody else. Ryan Neal at safety. He did well, but you might be able to find somebody else. So, but I mean, it's a pretty good list for the Bucks that are free agents. So I would not want to be their GM right now because I know that's going to be a very, very busy offseason.
Right. Yeah.
Trying to get everybody re-signed.
Yeah.
What do you got for the Chiefs?
Honestly, if anybody watched the Super Bowl, we know what the issue is. Basically, I think you sent me a meme where the Eagles team and the coaches were watching the Chiefs play the Bucks a couple years ago in the Super Bowl, and you're like, where basically Mahomes ran for 500 plus yards, and it was just scrambling the field. Like, let's just do what they're doing. Let's just do what they did. Why are we reinventing the wheel? Let's just do what the Bucks did to beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And you guys did. Well, not you guys, the Eagles. So the glaring, issue obviously is the left tackle for us. Joe Thuney had to basically kick out to tackle, and that's not his natural position. We tried to, bring in young guys like Wanya Morris, Kingsley Suamataua. They didn't hold down that position. They basically got benched. We tried to bring in DJ Humphries. He really wasn't the answer. So, we got to look at the free agency. We got to look at Cam Robinson, Dan Moore Jr., Alaric Jackson, Ronnie Stanley. There's a couple main targets that our GM Brett Veach could probably go after. We've also got to tie down some folks as well. Nick Bolton out of Missouri, who's been basically the heart and soul of our linebacker core. He's an unrestricted free agent, JB. So we have to make sure that he is locked up. Yeah. Also, the other person that we have to lock up, which is part of that front three, is Trey Smith. He's an unrestricted free agent as well.
Yeah, they have him like number 4.
He's one of the best in the business. If we don't lock up those two guys on long-term contracts, we are stupid as a team because they are the heart and soul.
26 years old, has proved, has certainly improved in pass protection.
His numbers don't lie. He should get a big contract. We should be the ones that give it to him. I think both of them want to stay in Kansas City. The problem is the cap space. We're at 15 million. Normally what we do is he'll go in and restructure Patrick Mahomes' contract. We'll find out here soon, the next 3 to 4 weeks, if Kelsey's going to retire. And if he does, there's a couple other things that may have to happen. That could push us as high as $70 million in cap space with no dead money, JB. So if that happens, we could definitely get these guys on long-term contracts, maybe give Hopkins maybe another year contract. Marquise Brown, he's an unrestricted free agent. P. Ryan, Justin Reed, our safety. We could give a shot to Josh Uche on the edge. Carson Wentz for another, cheap 1-year contract. Our long snapper, Winchester, been with us 10 years. All these guys, we have a ton of people that are unrestricted free agents. And then we also have some restricted exclusive rights free agencies in Mike Caliendo, Jack Cochran, Malik Herring, and Nazim Johnson, all of which have seen playing time. So we've got some Veach has his work cut out for him, but he's always done a pretty good job in the offseason getting us what we needed. Unfortunately, that left tackle was just too much for us to overcome, and that's what happens. So I've got a list of some other positions and other teams. I'm just curious, are there any other teams that you wanted to discuss? Because I've got probably the greatest need for each one.
Well, I think for the sake of having our Jesus moment here at the end, I think I probably went a little too long talking on some of the other stuff. So I just had kind of like a real short list of just top free agents where we could kind of see where do we think they'd be a good fit in.
Yeah. All right. Let's hear it.
So we talked about Sam Darnold last week, but one of the ones we didn't talk about, which is one of the top ones on the list, is T. Higgins.
Yeah.
So Higgins, one of the top wide receivers in the league. He's number 2, obviously behind Chase. So does Cincinnati trade him, or does he re-sign with Cincinnati as a number 2 behind Jamar Chase, or does he feel like he can be a true number 1 somewhere and go somewhere else?
Yeah.
He had 10 touchdowns in 12 games. So people are going to just be throwing money at him like crazy.
Yeah. The problem is there's not a lot of teams that need a wide receiver 1 or 2. The only team that I can think of in the entire NFL where their number 1 need is wide receiver is the Saints. Is the New Orleans Saints. Everybody else has somebody pretty decent 1-2. So I think he's indicated he wants to stay, but obviously he needs to make his money. This is the contract where he really needs to get paid on. So
true. Yeah.
I think he stays, honestly, if they give him a decent enough contract. I do think they have some cap space in Cincinnati. So yeah, I think he stays, but we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, because I completely agree. I mean, you're looking at if it wasn't for the fact that they just had kind of like a really bad start of the year.
Yeah.
Last year, then they would have made it into the playoffs and maybe made a splash in the playoffs. But it was just their beginning of the year that didn't do very well for them. But you're playing alongside, pretty decent team, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and a bunch of others. Joe Mixon, or not Joe Mixon anymore, but Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow. So you're like,
slide.
But I caught it. But nevertheless, so you're like, it's a hard thing because I'm not there in that spot, right? So it's a hard thing because I'm always a guy that's like, if I know that I'm playing for a good team, then why do I necessarily need to go make like a ton more money? Like if I can still live my life in a good way, still making millions of dollars and have a good chance of winning a Super Bowl,
right?
Going to the playoffs, being successful,
absolutely.
Then why would I not want to take it? But too many times players will just go to these teams that have the money, have the cap space, but no immediate future.
Yeah.
And so then you're just kind of like, all right, you're just there basking and making your money, but the team is doing nothing moving forward.
Yeah.
And you see it time and time again. And you're like, all right, well, what was that worth, to you? Like, you're at home just living out your dream of having all this money, but the love for the game, your team isn't doing well.
And they have the cap space. I just looked it up. They've got almost $62 million, so they're fine.
Yeah,
the Bengals, they're more than fine. So I do see them signing him to a long-term contract. I think him, Jamar Chase are a good 1-2 combo for Cincy. I don't like it as an AFC guy. I don't like the Bengals are the only team that have really given us trouble over the last 5-6 years. So what I would prefer he go to the Saints and move over to the NFC. And we don't need a strong Bengals team as a Chiefs fan. So that's just my 2
I don't
cents.
need a strong Saints team. So
who are the Bucks going to go after for edge? I feel like that's your major position for the Bucks. You got to shore up the edge rusher.
For me, are you talking about on defense? Me personally, number 3 here on this list is Josh Sweat. I love Josh Sweat. Obviously, being a former Florida State guy, I love Josh Sweat. Did great for Florida State.
Yeah.
I think he's been with the Eagles since he got drafted. So now just winning, he's 28. And since he, just won the Super Bowl, went to the Super Bowl a couple years ago with them. Yep. So you're like, why would you go to anywhere else? But he knows he can get a really good amount. But I mean, as a Bucks fan, I'm like, I will take him in a heartbeat. So if they can somehow manage to throw some money at getting somebody like a Josh Sweat, dude, I'm all about it.
Guys, you only have $8 million in cap space, so there's not a lot to work with there.
No, not at all.
At all, yeah.
No, not at all. And especially when you got guys that you're trying to re-sign back, like Carlton Davis. He's our outside linebacker. He wants to be somebody that's feared. Like he was just recently in an interview and was just like, I want to be somebody that is just feared. At this position, I want to be that lockdown linebacker position. So I would say like he was somebody with the Bucks. And then I think where'd he go to? The Lions? Yeah, I think he went to the Lions. But he wants to be that lockdown guy. So if we could end up maybe bringing him back, that would be good at a cornerback position. Yeah. Obviously, Chris Godwin. I don't know why, I don't remember if we let go of Carlton Davis or he just decided to leave. But I always liked him. I was always a big fan of his. So to get him back would be nice. But then obviously re-signing Chris Godwin. So we'll certainly see. But I wanted to give time today to a Jesus moment that you prepared.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of looking at it here. So we're gonna skip our last discussion topic in order to make time for that because I think that's important. And so I'm gonna give the show to you here. You had a great discussion topic today on Jim Thorpe, correct?
Yes. Yeah, we're gonna talk about Jim Thorpe. Yeah.
Yeah. What you got?
So, JB, in the realm of sports legends, few names shine as brightly as that of Jim Thorpe. His legacy spans the realms of football, baseball, and track and field, and he left an indelible impression on the sporting world. And what makes his journey even more extraordinary is the path he took to professional leagues, basically showcasing his unparalleled talent, resilience, and determination. He was born in May 1888 in a small town in Oklahoma. He has Native American heritage, and it was infused in his upbringing with deep connection to the land and an innate sense of athleticism. He attended the Carlisle Indian Industrial School in Pennsylvania, where his athletic prowess began to take shape. Under the guidance of Coach Pop Warner, yes, that Pop Warner, Thorpe honed his skills in football, baseball, and track and field. His athletic prowess was undeniable, and it didn't take long for him to make himself a name. He excelled in football, showcasing his versatility as a running back, defensive back, and a kicker. In 1912, he led the Carlisle football team to a stunning victory over a powerful Army team, solidifying his reputation as a force to be reckoned with on the field. His accomplishments extended beyond football. He competed in track and field events, demonstrating his exceptional speed, strength, and agility. At the 1912 Stockholm Olympics, he achieved unparalleled success by winning both the pentathlon and the decathlon, earning him the title the world's greatest athlete.
Wow.
After his impressive performance on the world stage, his journey took him from the collegiate ranks to the professional leagues, where he signed with the Canton Bulldogs, which was a team in the early days of what would later become the National Football League. His impact on the game was immediate and transformative. He played with the Canton Bulldogs, showcasing his versatility once again. He played multiple positions, running back, kicker, defense. And then they elevated to a championship. And so despite his remarkable talents, he faced challenges that transcended the realm of sports. In 1913, it was revealed that he played professional baseball during a period when amateurism was strictly enforced in both football and track and field. As a result, his Olympic titles were temporarily stripped, though they were later restored posthumously. Undeterred by setbacks, Jim Thorpe continued to shine in both football and baseball. He played for various professional football teams, including the New York Giants and the Chicago Cardinals. In baseball, he played for several teams in the major and minor leagues. In recognition of his exceptional contributions, the Pro Football Hall of Fame inducted Jim Thorpe posthumously in 1963, forever enshrining him as a football legend. The legacy of this remarkable athlete continues to inspire athletes and fans alike, serving as a reminder that greatness knows no boundaries. His journey from basically the collegiate levels to the pros remains a testament to his unwavering determination and unmatched talent. His impact on both collegiate and professional sports paved the way for future generations of athletes, demonstrating the possibility of what could be achieved with dedication and hard work. In 1950, JB, an Associated Press poll of almost 400 sports writers and broadcasters voted Thorpe the greatest athlete of the first half of the 20th century. That same year, the AP ranked him as the greatest American football player in the first half of the century, and Pro Football Hall of Fame voters selected him for the NFL's 50th anniversary all-time team in 1967. In 1999, the Associated Press placed him third on the list of top athletes of the century, following Babe Ruth and Michael Jordan as 1 and 2. ESPN ranked Thorpe 7th on their list of best North American athletes of the entire century.
Wow.
Pretty impressive, right? And then in 2024, I don't know if you knew this or not, but 2024 President Biden obviously gave him the most prestigious civilian award as well. So a couple scriptures that come to mind, JB, are Romans 12:12 in this type of environment where, you know, he was a Native American, and back in those days, it was tough for him. So, you know, he kept faithful to the Lord, and Romans 12:12 comes to mind. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, and faithful in prayer. And then Isaiah 40:28-31 also comes to mind. Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and his understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on the wings of eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. So just thought I would share those moments of encouragement, JB.
That's awesome. I mean, and that goes for like, for every level, right? So I don't know, I think you might have mentioned this, but I just missed that part. So they also give the Jim Thorpe Award out in college for best defensive back, I think. So again, but having known for years what that award was and what they give it out for, but just knew nothing about Jim Thorpe. So that's a great story of just kind of like resiliency, right? Just kind of putting your head down in the face of adversity to be able to still understand your own gifting and to understand the will that you have for your life and pushing forward through it all to just say, I know what I have to offer. I know what I can do. Yeah. And what an awesome career that he had. What an awesome legacy he had. Yeah. And so that's certainly somebody to emulate and to be inspired by for sure. So great story. Great guy there. Certainly enjoyed you sharing that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I feel like that's a great way, to end our show. We love whenever we can bring a little bit of inspiration to end the show amongst our friendly bickering and bantering throughout the areas that we talk about sports. And so I feel very much inspired by that story. So I'm going to take that one today and continue to walk in that inspiration. So again, thank you for sharing that. I think that's a great way, like I said, to end the show. We thank you all for listening. We hope that it did inspire you like it did for us as we prepared to share that today. And we just really, really hope, again, just thank you for continuing to listen to our show, following us along. I'll do a little quick plug here for, obviously, you're watching this on YouTube. If you're not and you're listening to it on Spotify or Apple, you can check out all of our live videos of these podcasts on YouTube at chop-talk-podcast. You can check us out. We do our little Jesus moments among other clips on Instagram and on TikTok. On Instagram, you can find us at chop_talk_podcast. And then on TikTok is chop.talk-podcast, and then the number 0. Right. Try to say all that stuff 5 times fast.
I don't think so.
So certainly continue to just like, subscribe, comment. We love it all. We love seeing it each and every week. We sincerely pray and hope that you all have a great rest of your week, and we will see you again the following week. Be blessed.
As always, stay prayed up and take care.
Take care.